A very warm welcome to you all. I hope you're managing to join us loud and clear. I'm joining you here from Riviera HQ in Burton-on-Trent. My name's Will Sarson, and we're here to talk to you today about our beautiful Croatian yacht cruises. So first of all, apologies if we're a little bit late starting. International broadcasting is still a little bit new for us, but we're getting there. So I'm actually going to be joined today by Jelena, who's one of our excellent tour managers who's based in Zagreb. So she's going to be broadcasting live from Zagreb to talk to us about these fantastic holidays. So I'll be passing over to Jelena shortly. I'll just give you a little bit of information before we get going. First of all, if anyone's got any questions as we go along, please pop them in the chat and we'll either try and pick them up as we go along, or at the end we'll come back and pick up as many as we can to make sure that all your questions have been answered. So in terms of me, my name's Will Sarson. I work in the product team at Riviera. So product's probably a slightly funny word in terms of holidays, but essentially our product is our holidays, the things that we sell. You know, if you think about the product that a chocolate company makes, it's chocolates. And like in a chocolate company, the people who make the chocolates are absolutely obsessed with chocolates. We're absolutely obsessed with holidays. All of us here in the team at Riviera are real travelholics. You know, the last 18 months have been difficult for us, but it's not dampened our enthusiasm one little bit. So we're really, really excited to get our customers back out traveling with us again as soon as we possibly can. And we've got so many more new things coming along the way as well. So we hope you share our enthusiasm for seeing the great wide world out there. So we've spent a lot of the last few months getting ready to restart our operations. We're getting going again with our tours, our cruises, and our yacht cruises, which is what we're going to be talking to you about today. Well, behind the scenes, we've got a team who've been really working tirelessly to make sure that every last little bit of, every last detail has been sorted for you to make sure that you can have a nice, relaxing, fulfilling holiday without any compromise. So whether that's from the onboard experience to the testing, etc., we want to make sure that this is a real holiday for you and you've not got any worries. So over the last 18 months, I must say that our customers have been absolutely fantastic in terms of how they've reacted to all the setbacks that we've all had to endure. You know, the letters that we've had, the emails that we've had, as people have had to postpone their holidays, and they're sticking with us and wanting to make sure that they still get the holiday that they booked. And we're really, really grateful for that. So thank you again to all of our customers for that. So moving on to the positive news, the future, Croatia has gone on the green list, as you're probably all aware. So we can now start traveling to Croatia again. And whether you're looking to travel this year or indeed next year or beyond, we hope that the information that Jelena is going to be giving us today will be inspiring and help you make that decision about whether or not this holiday is for you, which I'm sure it will. I've been to Croatia a number of times. It's a beautiful country. It's a diverse country. The people are very warm and friendly. The scenery is diverse and incredible as well. Whether it's stunning coastlines, you've got the incredible national parks with the waterfalls at Krka, these small islands that we get to visit on these cruises. Jelena is going to make sure that you're fully immersed in all of that as she talks to you today. Not only is the destination beautiful, but the ships that we use are also absolutely fantastic. They're all very modern, they're spacious, there's lots of outdoor space so that you can really enjoy that warm Croatian sunshine, and the interior space as well, where you can just kick back and relax while you're sailing along. Again, it's just perfect for a really beautiful, relaxing holiday. So I think that's enough of me for now. So I'm going to hand over from Burton to Zagreb. And as we say, zdravo to Jelena.
Thank you, Will. Now, dobar dan I dobrodošli u Hrvatsku. Now you can see I'm Croatian. What I actually said is good day, and I wish you a very warm welcome to Croatia. At the moment, it's very warm. It's about 30 degrees Celsius. So I'm sitting in an air-con room rather than outside, showing you the views from the outside. I'm showing you the view from my wall. But I'm actually hoping to do this live very soon, as I have a cruise coming up on the 29th of August. And I do wish definitely that I will do this in person to many of you, and I will be standing there in front of you rather than in front of a blank wall. Now, as Will said, my name is Jelena. I am Croatian. I have been with Riviera since 2011. So last year was supposed to be my decade, the 10th season that I work with Riviera, but that hasn't happened. So I'm hoping to celebrate it with you this year. So all the cruises that I have to go on will be celebrating the thing that we started traveling and enjoying the cruises again, and of course my anniversary with Riviera. So I usually do all the Croatian cruises on luxury vessels on the sea. I also do escorted tours for Riviera in Croatia. I do escorted tours in Russia. And I've done the river cruise on Russian rivers 2 years ago. So I'm hoping to get back to all of that either this year or next year, as I'm not planning to go anywhere yet, just yet. So what I would like to talk about is how actually the cruises work and what you can expect while cruising on the small ships, as we call them. It's a bit easier than luxury vessels, but they are luxury. When in Croatia, we have 5 ships sailing at the moment. Now, 3 of those are sailing between Split and Dubrovnik, basically the southern route. 2 of those are sailing north from Split. The furthest point north is the island of Rab, which Ilmare, one of our ships, is sailing to. And the southernmost point that we sail to is Dubrovnik, which basically most of the people think is the capital of Croatia. But it's not, it's Zagreb. Dubrovnik is just a very well-known destination and has been for several decades. Whichever route you choose, you are going to see not the same things, but the similar things, because the Dalmatian coast has a very, very similar influence throughout the history. From Roman times to Venetians' rule, this is reflected in architecture, historical facts. It's also reflected in culture, food, and of course, wines. Apart from the coast, some of the cities that we sail to on the coast are on the southern routes are Split, Dubrovnik, and then we also sail to the islands like Korčula and Brač and Hvar. Hvar being one of the sunniest islands on the Croatian coast, once upon a time in the past. Not anymore because of the climate changes, but once upon a time, if you had rain on Hvar for more than 7 days, you could get a holiday for free. This is how sunny it was in those days. Of course, now things have changed, so unfortunately, they don't enforce the same rule anymore. And then if you sail north, we are sailing to the cities of Zadar. On the coast, we're also sailing to some islands like Rab, Zlarin, which is an amazing small island with basically only one settlement, but it's still full of history and culture and quaint little streets that you can explore. Normally, how the islands, I mean, we have over 1,000 islands, so we are not going to visit all of them. Some of them are outcrops of rock, but still, we are going to visit some of the most spectacular ones on these routes. We sail off in the mornings. And during our sail time in the mornings, when we can, when weather permits, of course, we usually stop in small, clean, clear bays for a swim. Usually our stops are about 1 hour to 1 hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on where we sail and how long does it usually take us to get there. You swim off the ship in those cases. We normally don't go into shallow waters, so you should be able to swim for these things. If you are a non-swimmer, and I got a question about that, still the views while sailing in the morning, the views of the coastline, the views of the vineyards, small vineyards coming down the hills all the way to the shores, really hard picking grapes on those vineyards. The view of the islands, because we normally don't sail in the open sea, we sail between the coastline and the islands when we can for protection, of course, is still worth a cruise and coming on these cruises. After our swim stop, we usually have some time to relax before our lunch, and you get breakfast and lunch served on board. And we normally, on most of the cruises, arrive to our destination, the next destination, after lunchtime. What we have then, we usually moor for the night. So once we stop, except in certain cases, we stay there for the whole night. We have organized a guided city tour in most of these places. Guided city tours last maximum of 1 hour and quarter, 1 hour and a half. But you do get the overview of historical and cultural facts as well as the lifestyle from our local guides. All the guides are local guides, the people that actually live in those destinations and have the inside knowledge. And then after that, it's your free time. And it's an amazing opportunity to spend an evening in each of these destinations, because you get time to explore on your own. You get time to find a really nice restaurant for the dinner. Our lunches are 3-course lunches. So many people say, I'm not going to eat anything in the evening. And then everyone usually does, because it is part of the experience of cruising in the Adriatic. If you don't get hungry, there are plenty of wine bars that serve prosciutto and cheese, which is really typical for the Dalmatian coast. And you can have a glass of wine with that. So you don't have to have a big dinner. You can, of course, but you don't have to, and you can enjoy. You can actually join us and enjoy what we do best. This is one of our favorite pastimes, apart from football, which I'm not going to talk about now or ever. But one of our favorite pastimes is actually sitting down, drinking coffee and watching people go by. We are really good at that. It does take a lifestyle practicing to sit there for 2 hours and gossip about, who's wearing what and what they're doing. But hey, you're welcome to join us and try the same lifestyle. And this is very typical for Mediterranean cities, not just in Croatia, but in Greece and Spain and all these Mediterranean countries. So basically, what you're going to experience is very similar to those, except Croatian Adriatic is a little bit different, because Croatia is a much smaller country. They have more islands. We are very lucky in that sense that the current actually that comes from the south picks up all the garbage from the Croatian coast and dumps it down on Italian side, which we face. In that respect, we were lucky. In that respect, they weren't. It also is one of the reasons why we have so many islands to visit. If you're sailing for the first time, or if you're visiting Croatia for the first time, I would say go the southern route. Even if you're not, it's still amazing to actually see Dubrovnik and Split and the islands like Brač from the sea first and then sail in. Being on small ships does not in any way compare to cruises as such, because big cruise ships, you don't get to know everyone. Here, you do get to make friends with your fellow passengers, but you still have enough space, if you need it, to relax and find a secluded spot to read your book. So there are enough open spaces like the sun deck and the main deck where you can actually sit back, relax, and enjoy the sail. You can talk to people if you wish, or you can stay in your cabin if you don't, but I still would rather recommend you spend time on the board when we are sailing. And then the next morning, we usually sail off to our next destination. Now, what we are visiting on most of these cruises are some of the UNESCO sites. We don't visit any archaeological sites per se, because most of them are inland. We do visit UNESCO protected sites, which are like Split Diocletian's Palace, which is one of the longest lived in palaces in the world. Don't expect a palace like Versailles. This was a Roman palace, and that meant it was a whole city, a walled city. You can say we do have an archaeological site there, because they actually excavated part of the basement, which you can visit and revisit on our tours today. but that has been one of the longest lived in places in Europe. Also, we have the old city of Dubrovnik, the old town of Dubrovnik, with its walls is protected as UNESCO heritage site. If you're going the northern route, we visit Šibenik Cathedral, which is also protected by UNESCO, and the old town of Trogir on our northern route. So we do have quite a few of UNESCO sites. We also do have, on some of our cruises, we do visit National Park Krka, which we'll mention. And this is the park with waterfalls. We have done this with our escorted tours, Dalmatian escorted tours, for quite a long time, and now they are on some of our routes, and that takes you out of visiting a city and getting into the nature a bit. And Croatia is known for these two. We have 8 national parks, but these two are quite famous, which is Plitvice Lakes, but that's inland and quite further up north, and Krka National Park, which is all about waterfalls. So you do get a bit of nature, you get a bit of the coast, Adriatic Sea, and all of these things. When it comes to food, and this is, I got a very specific question, which I'm going to answer. Do we get stuffed peppers, cevapcici, and sarma on board? Now, stuffed peppers, maybe, but it's actually a very traditional meal, not just on the Dalmatian coast, but inland as well. So if you don't get it on the ship, there are plenty of restaurants where you can get it while we are moored for the night. If you're interested in that, just ask us and we'll point you in the right direction. It's not something that the expensive restaurants would serve. It's something that we would eat in local eateries for lunch, for example. Cevapcici is actually minced meat fingers that are grilled, that you can find everywhere. But it's not typically Croatian. That comes from Bosnia and Turkey, as Bosnia was part of the Ottoman Empire for up to 400 years. And also sarma, which is a very typical meal, but it's a winter meal. It's actually sour cabbage filled with minced meat and rice. But that's something that you would make for special occasions in the winter, and then we have to eat it for a week or 2 in a row. They do say that when you heat it up, it's much better than when you eat it the first time. I'm not sure about that, but this is the saying as it goes. On the ship, we do cater for special preferences. We do cater vegetarian, vegans. We usually have gluten-free things as well. One thing to understand is that the kitchens on these smaller ships are not like big kitchens on the cruise ships. Usually we have 2 people working in the kitchen, but still we do try to cater to all your tastes. We eat on the ships plenty of fish because this is what Dalmatia is famous for, fresh fish from the Adriatic Sea. You can find plenty of Mediterranean food in the restaurants as well for your evening meal. We have usually some really good wines to follow that, and these are very often coming from those small vineyards that we sail about that come down the hills, as I mentioned before. Dalmatian wines, we grow wines, we have vineyards all over Croatia, but because of different climatic conditions in different parts, the wines coming from Dalmatia are much fuller in body than the northern, for example, wines. So you get a lot of sunshine in a glass because these areas are usually very rocky. They get a lot of sun hours, and of course they have very little rain. At the moment, we don't have big fires as they are going on in Greece and Turkey, and we are hoping to actually keep it down to the minimum level. But it's been a very, very warm and very dry summer. So, but we have really good firefighter units down on the coast, which we'll talk about once you board the ship with us. The other question that I got was about solo travelers. Solo travelers on the ship, if you're not on a solo cruise and you're in a mixed group, I have to tell you that whoever traveled solo so far was usually very welcomed by everyone else. We don't have separate tables, so we have a few big tables for the groups, and we usually did mingle in the past, so you can pick and choose who you want to sit with. It also gives you a chance to meet as many people as there are on the ship. We do not organize dinners in the evening, but I have to tell you, if you need a booking, we will always do that for you, as long as you know what you wish, and we can recommend you the restaurants. But having the opportunity to pick and choose your own place for dinner, it's quite an amazing thing. And very often people go together. But as such, we don't organize that in the evenings. If there are any other questions, I think I mentioned more or less what is there to expect. And I have taken quite a bit of time. I do hope you will join us this year, as we've been waiting for you for over a year now, and we are really excited to do so. Things in Croatia are really calm. There are quite a lot of tourists at the moment. This is also the time for family holidays. So until about 15th or 20th of August, there are a lot of families from European countries, but once the kids go back to school, which is end of August, it quietens down a bit, and then we have a bit of a different lifestyle. In September and October, you can expect the weather to still be good. The sea is still warm, usually in September, warm enough for a swim because it had the whole summer to get warm. This is not a tropical sea, so it's not going to be 32 degrees with colorful fish and Nemos swimming around, but there is life in the sea. It's just the Mediterranean Sea. We do often run into dolphins, but that really depends where they are in the Adriatic at that point. We had dolphins following us a few times because we do have the largest dolphin shelter in the Mediterranean on one of the northern islands. So I do hope this has invited you to be with us, and I wish to do this live with you sometime soon. Thank you very much. Hvala.
Hvala, Jelena. That was a wonderful description of what we get up to on our cruises there. And you know, I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say I'm absolutely chomping on the bit to go myself now. It sounds absolutely what we need right now. We've had a few questions come in on the chat, so I just want to make sure that we've addressed as many of those as possible. So we actually had one in advance from Andrew. Andrew had some quite specific questions regarding the sort of the admin side of things before travel, etc. So I just wanted to go through those, make sure we're really clear on that. So Andrew, first of all, asked if vaccination and or negative test was required to get to Croatia. Both of those things are required. We will include the cost of the test beforehand, and we'll also we're working with a partner who will help you to get that test to make sure that's a nice smooth process for you. So it is required, but we will include it for you. The next question was around you may have seen the news that there's been a little bit of fuss about some countries not accepting people who'd had an Indian produced version of the AstraZeneca jab. Fortunately, the countries that are not accepting that are very few and far between, and Croatia does accept people who have had that particular jab, so no problems with that one. And then his final question was just around local restrictions in place in Croatia at the moment. I mean, I think that we're probably best just to hand back to Jelena just to get to the info on that. So in terms of face mask, social distancing, what's currently in place at the moment in Croatia?
At the moment, you have to wear a mask in public transport and closed spaces, but all the restaurants on the coast actually have terraces, and this is open to business. So unless you're going to go to a massive party of more than 1,000 people, which is not happening at the moment, you don't really have to show your, as they call it, the COVID passport anywhere you go at the moment. So it's pretty much open, except the social distancing. We do ask people to be careful and wear a mask if they're in enclosed spaces. But other than that, it has been pretty quiet, fortunately, in the past couple of weeks. So we are hoping that this is going to stay. But as rules change everywhere, we will check that before we get on our first cruise. So when you arrive, we will be able to tell you what exactly is in place at that point. So I think that's the best thing to look out for. But the masks, I would ask you to bring them. We do have hand sanitizers everywhere on the ship. These are to be found in the shops and of course, wherever you go, the restaurants and everything. And it's always best to sit outside on the terrace.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So another question just around testing, etc. There's a question, do you need to have had both vaccinations as well as a PCR test? As far as I know, you do require both of those things. You do have to be fully vaccinated and have a PCR test. Another question that's just coming from Susan and Richard, which is around currency. So we use the Croatian currency, obviously, throughout. Are there any other exceptions to that, Jelena?
The only exception is if you are going on Adriatic sky, which actually there is a day when we are going to visit Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina, or so is at the moment in the program, but we will see how the borders are as we do have to cross the borders in that case. That I would suggest taking euro with you. But other than that, all Croatia uses kuna. The exchange rate between kuna and pound is approximately £1 is about 8 kuna at the moment, 8.50 at the moment, which would basically buy you a pack and a half of chewing gums. Maybe a coffee in some places.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So the next question is from Mary, and she's querying what it's like for people who suffer from seasickness. Now, obviously, these are coastal cruises rather than full-on ocean-going sea cruises. So, Jelena, I'm assuming that seasickness is not generally an issue.
Not really, no. But if you do suffer from it, I would actually recommend taking something for it. This is the sea. It's still not a lake. So the lakes are enclosed by the coast, and basically they don't have the winds and everything. We don't experience many problems when we are sailing, but there are winds. Still, the Adriatic Sea is the sea. We do, unless we are crossing to some of the islands, we usually do sail within the sight of the coast. But these are smaller ships than cruise ships in terms of size or tonnage. They're just under 500 tons, if it means anything to anyone, kind of thing. So I've seen another question, which is about dinners, but I didn't get a good look. Could you please?
So the question was, can you just confirm how often dinners are on board and how often they're taken ashore? Because there's mixed board bases, isn't there? So just confirm that.
So we have breakfast and lunch on board, and then we have 2 dinners on board. We have dinner the first day we arrive, because if you're arriving in the morning or sometime, we usually have a light lunch that day, and then we have a dinner. So you, of course, meet the whole crew, and you will be seeing the crew the whole time, because usually the crew members on these ships are between 7 and 9. So it's not that you can avoid them, and it's not that you want to, because you will hear a lot of Croatian stories. Don't believe all of them, but you will get to know some really local people. And then we have the captain's dinner on board. And these are usually the 2 dinners that we have on board. Everything else is on the shore. when it comes, this is something that I forgot to tell you. When it comes to dressing on board, what we normally do is take, it's a bit more laid back than big cruise ships. If you wish to dress up in the evenings to go out, that's perfectly fine, and why not? At the end of the day, it's your holiday, it's a lovely country, so why not do that? And then most of the people do like to dress up for captain's dinner. But other than that, it's a little bit more laid back. We have, how many people are on board in total? The total is usually about 38. It was before all of this, but I'm sure Will is going to tell you more about that now. And then that was something else, I'm sorry.
So just in terms of the number of people on board, the ship's capacity is indeed 38 people. But of course, as things are at the moment, it's highly likely that there'll be fewer people on board over the coming couple of months. So, 38 absolute maximum, but realistically, there'll be fewer than that for the sailings coming up. So we're going to have to wrap up shortly, but we've got a couple of questions from Sheila that I just want to address. So the first question is, how close to the shore do the ships moor? And then the second question she asks, are rooms serviced every day? So if we get those answered, and then we'll start to wrap up. Thanks, Jelena.
Okay. We actually moor next to the shore, so we are not moored in the middle of the sea. Depending on the destination, we are either right next to the dock, so you just walk off. This is the point of small ships, so you can come and go as you please. Sometimes when it's busy, especially in places like Dubrovnik or Hvar, this year is going to be a little bit quieter, but 2019 got really, really busy. We moor parallel to each other, to other ships. So in that case, sometimes, not all the times, depends when we arrive, you have to go to cross the other ships to get to our ship, but it's quite fun because you can have a peek into them as well. And then, so we're not in the open sea for the night. Once, normally, not for everything, but once we stop for the afternoon tour and everything, we do remain in the same place. There are some exceptions to this, but that's down to each specific cruise. So you get a peek into other ships as well. And we are only Riviera. It's not a mixed group. So when on Riviera ships, there are no mixed groups. On these small, on these ships, there are no mixed groups. It's just Riviera guests. So this is how we have been operating for 5 or 6 years now. Well, when it comes to cruising in the Adriatic.
And then finally, just are the rooms serviced every day usually?
Usually it's not every day. Usually, let's put it this way. The cleaning is every day. So the cleaning of the cabin is happening every day. Usually in the mornings while you're spending your time on the sun deck, sailing, enjoying the views and going for a swim. And then the linens and everything is changed once a week. And we tell you which particular days they actually do that. If you need something extra pillow and stuff like that, I usually keep it on the ship too. I do hope that answers this. And of course, the whole ship is cleaned every day. They are very clean ships, and Croatia overall is quite a clean country.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, well, I hope we managed to answer everyone's questions. They were coming through quite thick and fast, so if I did miss any, I do apologise, but by all means, you can drop us an email and we'll get back to you if we did miss anything for you there. But I just want to again say Avala, thank you to Jelena for that fascinating insight.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm really excited to be back on the cruises.
Excellent, and we're excited to get back on the cruises as well, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I can only speak for myself here, but, you know, as you talk about these beautiful destinations and that lovely combination of eating in the ship's restaurant and going out in the evening and eating among the locals, it just sounds just absolutely perfect. And of course, anyone who knows anything about Croatian wine will know why they don't export it and keep it all for themselves. Absolutely fabulous.
That's very true. Also, it's very small quantities that we produce in comparison to some other countries. So.
So I'd absolutely urge you to, if you're looking for a getaway this year, this is a really great choice. It's perfect for the current situation. You know, go and get yourself some lovely warm Adriatic sunshine on an absolutely stunning boat and some stunning scenery, and enjoy some Riviera and Croatian hospitality. So thank you very much for your attendance today, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
In Croatia. Bye.
Bye-bye.